November in Boston was cold and restless. The wind blew through the narrow streets, sweeping up dry leaves and pushing them into little whirlwinds. From the fourth floor of St. Mary's Community Hospital, Martha Carter watched the leaves dance from the window of the staff break room. She stood there for a moment, hugging her arms around herself, before turning away to pick up her patient chart. Martha's white nurse's uniform was neat and pressed, and her hair was tied back in a simple bun. There was a softness to her smile, but behind it hid a quiet tiredness, one that only showed when she thought no one was looking. "Thank you so much, Miss Carter, you really saved my boy." A young mother stood by the nurse's station with her little son holding her hand. The boy was shy, peeking at Martha from behind his mother's coat. Martha's eyes warmed instantly. She knelt down and stroked the boy's soft hair. "Hey, Jimmy, you look much better today, but you have to keep taking your medicine, okay? Promise me?" Jimmy nodded quickly and managed a small smile. His mother smiled too, eyes bright with relief. Moments like this reminded Martha why she had chosen this job. 7 years at St. Mary's had taught her that care didn't just come from medicine. Sometimes, a kind word and a warm hand did just as much healing. When the mother and child finally left, Martha looked at the clock. 1 more hour left on her shift. Her shoulders dropped with quiet relief. Today, she wanted to pick up her 8-month-old son, Jacob, a little earlier from daycare. Just thinking about his chubby cheeks and toothless smile made her heart feel lighter. But before she could turn to finish her paperwork, she heard her name. "Martha," called Janet, the head nurse, a kind but sharp-eyed woman who had been a mentor since her first day. "You had a call while you were with Jimmy's mom." "Who was it?" Martha asked, though her heart already knew. "It was Daniel Carter. He left a message. He wants to see Jacob over Thanksgiving weekend." Martha's hands froze. She forced a polite smile. "Okay, thanks, Janet." 2 years ago, Martha would have rushed to answer any call from Daniel. Back then, they were still husband and wife, 2 medical professionals trying to build a life together. She was a nurse, he was a pediatric surgeon. Everyone thought they were the perfect pair, similar dreams, similar ambition. At first, Martha believed it too. They talked about opening a private clinic someday, about having a big family, about traveling together when their careers slowed down. But as time went on, Daniel's career kept speeding up, while Martha's heart kept slowing down. Every emergency surgery, every research paper, every medical conference, each one pushed him further away from their tiny apartment and their dinner table for 2. Even when Martha became pregnant, his happiness came with conditions: calls from the hospital, late-night flights to conferences, missed doctor appointments. When Jacob was born, Daniel was in another state giving a lecture. He didn't see his son until 6 hours after Martha had gone through labor alone. It was then, lying in that hospital bed, holding her baby close, that Martha realized she needed to choose which life she wanted, the shadow of Daniel's career, or the warm, real life she dreamed of for her child. She chose Jacob. She chose herself. The divorce was clean, polite, almost cold. Daniel didn't argue. He signed the papers. He gave her a generous settlement, probably to wash his conscience clean. But when Martha's family found out, they didn't see courage in her choice. They saw failure. Her mother, Diane, asked the same question over and over: "Why did you ruin a perfect marriage?" Her father, Robert, said little, but the disappointment in his eyes was louder than any words. Her brother Greg, who played golf with Daniel every weekend, called her selfish for breaking up the family over small things. His wife, Elizabeth, just smiled politely at family dinners, whispering Daniel's praises behind Martha's back. It hurt Martha more than she admitted. She still tried to show up for birthdays and holidays at first, but every time she saw her parents look past her as if she had made an unforgivable mistake, it chipped away at something inside her. So she stopped going. She focused on Jacob, on her work, on building something strong that no one could take away. When her shift finally ended, Martha hurried through the cold November air to the small daycare center where Jacob spent his days. The moment she stepped through the door, she saw him, her baby boy, sitting on a colorful mat, waving a small toy in the air. "Mama." Jacob's voice was still soft and uncertain, but that tiny word filled Martha's heart every time. She scooped him up, buried her face in his warm neck, and felt the tiredness of her long day melt away. Back at their small apartment, she fed him his dinner, mashed sweet potatoes that he smeared all over his bib, his cheeks, and her uniform sleeve. After she put him to bed that night, Martha sat on the edge of her bed and pulled out the big white envelope hidden beneath it. Inside were papers that could change things: loan repayment receipts for her parents' house, tickets for a round-the-world trip her parents always dreamed about but never took. It was money from Daniel, yes, but she had turned it into something good, something to show her family she still cared, she still wanted to be part of them. She traced her finger over the envelope flap and whispered, "Tomorrow. This might fix everything, Jacob." Thanksgiving morning came with pale sunshine and the smell of rosemary from the little pot on her windowsill. Martha woke up early to make sure Jacob was bathed and fed. She dressed him in a soft navy onesie with little bears on it and a warm hat that covered his small ears. For herself, she wore a deep red velvet dress she had bought on sale last month. She brushed her hair slowly, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Today will be different, she told herself. She needed to believe that. She baked her mother's favorite pumpkin pie. Her mother always said homemade food brings people closer together. She packed Jacob's diaper bag, slipped the envelope into her purse, and strapped her son into his car seat. The drive to her parents' house was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater and Jacob's sleepy breaths. The neighborhood was the same as always: big old trees, trimmed hedges, warm lights glowing through living room windows. Martha parked in front of the brick house where she had grown up. She sat in the car for a moment, staring at the front door. She remembered every Christmas morning on that porch, every birthday party, every night coming home late from high school while her mother waited in the window. She whispered to her sleeping son, "Let's go, baby, it's time." She lifted Jacob carefully, balancing the pumpkin pie in one hand and the envelope tucked under her arm. She walked the short path up to the porch, the leaves crunching under her boots. She was ready, ready to forgive, ready to be forgiven. But when she looked up, her breath caught. A small piece of paper was taped crookedly to the front door. Martha stepped closer. The words were written in uneven handwriting. "Family dinner, no single mothers allowed." Martha stared at the sign until the letters blurred through her tears. She could hear laughter inside, her father's deep chuckle, her mother's cheerful voice, her brother's kids giggling at cartoons. There was no room for her in that picture, not for her, not for Jacob. She looked down at her baby's sleeping face. Slowly, she set the pie and the envelope on the doorstep. She pulled a pen from her purse and scribbled a note on the back of an old receipt. "I thought we could still be a real family. This is my last gift." She pressed the paper under the pie dish so the wind wouldn't blow it away. Then, with Jacob warm and safe in her arms, she turned and walked back down the path. She didn't look back. Inside her car, she buckled Jacob into his seat again. When she sat in the driver's seat, her hands trembled. The tears came, but they weren't tears of regret. She looked at her son in the mirror. "We'll be just fine, Jacob. We're all we need." As she drove away from the house she once called home, the wind blew more leaves across the road, brown, gold, and orange, swirling in the cold November air. Martha knew there would be lonely days ahead, but in her heart, something strong and warm was growing, something that no rejection could destroy. A luxurious travel package, good for a whole year, hidden inside that envelope. Martha had arranged it through a friend who worked at a travel agency. She knew how long her parents had dreamed about seeing the world together: Europe's old cities, Asia's temples, the deserts of Africa. Her brother's kids could have learned so much too. As Martha stood in the kitchen that morning, scooping warm cereal into Jacob's small bowl, she told herself, "It's not that I expected them to accept it, I just wanted them to know I still care about them, no matter what." Outside, fresh snow lay on the window ledge like white frosting. Jacob babbled in his high chair, cereal sticking to his chin. Martha smiled faintly at him, wiping his mouth with a cloth. Then her phone buzzed on the counter, vibrating across the surface. When she looked at the screen, her heart tightened. It said "Mother." For a moment, Martha thought about letting it ring. After what happened yesterday, what could there be to say? But she sighed, picked up the phone, and pressed it to her ear. "Martha." Her mother's voice trembled in a way Martha had not heard in years. In the background, Martha heard her father's deep voice and her brother's sharp tone, both talking over each other. Something crashed, like a plate falling. "Martha, what you left on the doorstep. Is it true? Is that real?" her mother asked. Martha pulled out a chair and sat down, feeling her knees go weak. "What do you mean, Mom?" she said, though she knew exactly what this was about. "The envelope," Diane whispered, "the proof that you paid off our house loan, the round-the-world tickets, all of it. We found it this morning, but it's all torn up. Who would do that? Martha stared out the kitchen window, her chest tight. I didn't tear them up, she said softly. I left them there yesterday, with the pie, after I saw the sign on your door. What sign? Her mother asked, voice small. The one that said, family dinner, no single mothers allowed. I came with Jacob, Mom. I stood on your porch holding him. I saw it with my own eyes. There was a long, raw silence. In the background, the men's voices stopped. Then her mother's voice came back, weaker than before. Martha, there was no sign. We waited all morning for you. We thought you changed your mind and didn't want to come. But another voice broke in, low, rough, and guilty. Greg, her brother. I put it up, he said. Martha closed her eyes. She could almost picture him standing in the kitchen, rubbing the back of his neck, trying not to look at anyone. It was just a joke. I didn't think you'd see it before we could take it down, Greg said. I didn't mean for you to leave. It was stupid. Martha felt something bitter rise in her chest. You called it a joke. Do you know what it looked like to me? That you never wanted me there in the first place. That you'd rather laugh at me than stand by me. Greg didn't answer at first. She heard him swallow. You're right. It was cruel. It was never funny. I was just angry and jealous, Martha. And when I saw what was in the envelope, the money, the trip, I lost it. I tore it up. I didn't know how else to feel. Martha closed her eyes for a second, breathing in the smell of warm cereal and baby shampoo. She looked at Jacob, who was busy tapping his spoon on the tray. She was surprised to hear her own voice come out calm and strong. Greg, you've been angry at me for a long time. You always took Daniel's side. You told me I was selfish for leaving him, but you never asked me how it felt, being alone in that marriage, raising Jacob mostly by myself. Silence, then her father's voice, quieter than she'd ever heard it. Son, is that true? Did you really do this? Yes, Greg said, his voice cracking. Martha shook her head. It's done now, Mom, Dad. I didn't bring the envelope to make you owe me anything. I just wanted to remind you that I love you, that I didn't walk away from you. I only walked away from what was hurting me. Her mother's voice wavered. Martha, we didn't know. We should have stood by you. I should have stopped Greg. I didn't, and I'm so sorry. Martha took a deep breath. It's okay, Mom. Jacob and we're okay. I just wanted you to know I tried. She heard a sniffle. Her father spoke then, strong. Old Robert, always the pillar in his mind, now sounding small. Martha, if you'll let us, we'd like to see you, to see Jacob, to fix this, somehow. Martha looked at her son, who smiled at her with his whole heart, not knowing the hurt or the healing happening around him. She felt something warm push through her chest. Actions, not just words. Dad, she said gently, you don't just fix a crack with sorry, you fix it by standing by it until it's strong again. After she hung up, Martha leaned back in her chair, looking out at the white, bright world beyond the window. She felt lighter. Jacob squealed, waving his little spoon. She picked him up, pressing her lips to his soft hair. See, my love, even when something breaks, we can still try to mend it, piece by piece. That afternoon, snow fell in soft, heavy flakes outside her small apartment. Martha bundled Jacob in his warmest hat and mittens and took him for a short walk around the block. When they came back, rosy-cheeked and laughing, she laid him down for a nap and sat by the window with a cup of tea in her hands. Hours passed. The world outside the window seemed wrapped in quiet forgiveness. When the doorbell rang, Martha's heart jumped. She set down her cup, walked to the door, and opened it slowly. On the other side stood her family, her mother's eyes red and swollen, her father's shoulders bent under the weight of too many unspoken words, Greg with his wife Elizabeth and their children behind him, shuffling their boots on the snowy mat. Her mother stepped forward first. Martha, we came to say this to your face. We were wrong. We want to fix this, if you'll let us. Martha looked at them, this group of people who had hurt her, and whom she still loved anyway. She thought of Jacob, sleeping in the next room, the tiny heartbeat of her whole world. She opened the door wider and stepped aside. Come in, she said softly. Let's talk.